Fred Keller, a talented mandolin player, was one of the original organizers of the Old School Art Center in Sandstone. When we were filming a story there recently, we visited with Fred at home, where he shared his passion for musicology and Minnesota history.
My first gig was a Renaissance festival down in Shakopee. I just strummed guitar and sang loudly. I wound up hooking up with some Irish musicians. I played Irish music for a long time, pub music, a lot of drinking songs, and a lot of IRA songs, a lot of stuff that I didn't know much about. But I got into the traditional aspect of it, which was a lot of fun. I learned how to play jigs and reels and dances, and I really enjoyed that a great deal, and more of the traditional songs. And I enjoy the age aspect of Irish music. But somewhere right around the year 2000, a couple of things happened. I saw a concert at the Cedar Cultural Center, and the bill was the Lonesome River Band opening for Del McCoury, the Del McCoury Band. That was a couple of hot bluegrass acts, and they still are, top of the game. And I saw what the mandolin was capable of. And it just really opened my eyes, and it was a lot of fun, and I finally started to learn how to play my instrument instead of learning how to play a bunch of jigs and reels. Over the course of the years, I worked with a few bands here in Minnesota, most notably the Whistlepigs String Band, which I helped found. And we played for somewhere in the neighborhood of 7-8 years, and we played 5 states and southeast Saskatchewan, which was a lot of fun. But we did play the Phelps Mill Festival a couple of years, and I always remember Phelps Mill because the crowds were wonderful, the setting is beautiful, and it was 2 of the most brutally hot days I've ever played in my life. But we had a great time playing on the back of that flatbed truck and people dancing and stuff. And so a few years back, 3-4 years ago, the band ended, as bands inevitably do. Each band has a particular life of its own. And so I've been solo ever since, and one of the things that I've done over the course of my career is to continue to go backwards in time. Bluegrass music was started as a commercial music, roughly 1946, by Bill Monroe. In fact, Bill Monroe is the only man who can claim to have invented a style of music. He's responsible for bluegrass. He and Earl Scruggs, the two of them created it, and you can't quite have one without the other in my mind. What I like to do then is to find the stuff that those guys learned that helped them create bluegrass. For example, Bill Monroe was an absolutely wonderful old-time mandolin picker. He learned old fiddle tunes from his parents. So what I've done then is to go find all these various threads, old string band blues. There's some interesting gray areas of folk music that exist before World War II. And I love that kind of music. I love these southern forms. These are intrinsically southern music forms. Well, one thing that I, for a number of years now, have always found lacking is where are the Minnesota themes for the songs? I mean, we have Minnesota music, but generally speaking, not exclusively, but generally speaking, it's Scandinavian. Fiddle tunes in Minnesota have tended to have either Irish or Scandinavian origins. And of course there's a very strong strain of German music in the New Ulm and Mankato area and so forth. But I like to blend the southern forms, which I've spent so much time learning and I love dearly, and I like to write my own music with Minnesota themes. Especially since I moved up here to Sandstone, I started to learn a little bit about all the local history. You know, about 2 blocks away from me east is a place called the Government Road. There's a sign. It's a military road, the old military road. And I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what it was. And so I did some digging in the History Center and found a number of interesting old articles about the early days of the settlement before Minnesota was a territory even. The government needed to connect the various forts, Snelling, Ripley, Ridgely, and the fourth one I can't recall. Well, they commissioned a man named Captain Simpson to build these roads. They were corduroy roads.
Well, I gambled on a steamer down in Old Point Tuck as the wind blows crooked up the government road. I was waiting on a girl in a cotton sundress. No one ever find us up the government road. Take my hand and follow me. A map never shows you what used to be. The past is a very big place to roam. There's another world waiting up the government.
Along the railroad and along the government road, people plotted paper towns, they called them. They only existed on the maps. So they were intended to be built, but they never were.
Land developers.
Well, yeah. People were, the early days of Minnesota, there were more lawyers here than almost any other trade because they were filing claims for people.
Sure.
Some of them legitimate and many of them not.
Like many professional musicians, Fred has quite a collection of instruments. Some of them are pretty unique, such as his commodium.
Well, this here is one of my 4 mandolin family instruments that I use. This is a commodium. The commodium, made by a fellow named Keith Carey, outside of Sacramento, California. I'm fairly certain this is the only one here in Minnesota. It is, as many of your viewers will note, made from a metal bedpan. The top here with the holes drilled in it is a hospital dinner tray lid, and the tailpiece is a fork. So the reasoning behind all this is not just whimsical, although whimsy features prominently. The man Keith Carey plays with a lot of different groups out in California, and he is a wonderful roots musician. This particular kind of string band blues or jug band blues style often used something called a banjolin or a mandolin banjo, which for my money has all the shrill of a Justin Bieber concert. It's really loud, but it's really kind of shrieky. So what he does is he makes this a resonator. Inside this is just a resonator cone, which mutes and mellows the sound a little bit. He's something of a mad scientist.
A talented mandolin player whose original songs are based on Minnesota stories. I hope someday you can have the opportunity to hear Fred Keller in concert.